Mr. Hackbarth, I come from a region, the San Joaquin Valley of California, where we historically have lower reimbursement rates. We're having trouble recruiting specialists and even doctors. Many of the doctors in my district are becoming older, and we're seeing more and more doctors basically coming from foreign countries locating here. I think that raises several questions in my mind about the rate of Medicare reimbursement levels. And if you look at, the first question I would say is, if you look at the 1980s, and if you adjust it for inflation, I believe that the docs are making less today than they were inflation adjusted back to 1980s. Is that accurate?
I don't know whether that's true or not, Mr. Nunes.
Well, I'm pretty sure it probably is. But if you look at the hospitals that are operating in these low and negative rates for the non-Medicare margins, and the theory that I think you've suggested or MedPAC has suggested is that if Medicare simply paid less, that the hospitals would become more efficient at delivering care. It seems kind of crude. It doesn't seem to me like this is a workable solution, at least in my district. I think we've tried that, and what we're seeing is, as I stated in my opening, a problem with recruitment and a problem getting specialists. So, it seems like the more you cut, the harder it becomes. And so I guess my question is that, if we want to improve efficiencies, is cutting these Medicare payments truly the best way to do it, essentially rationing care, which is what you were talking about earlier, and is there a better way that we could provide this care?
Yeah. Well, let me start with a distinction. You began by talking about the particular problems of a rural area in attracting physicians, especially specialty physicians. That's a different sort of issue than the issue of the overall Medicare payment rate. And let me address them in turn. In terms of having payment rates that are adequate for the special circumstances of a rural area, on the hospital side, Medicare has a series of different payment policies to try to help small institutions, especially those that are isolated. For example, the critical access hospital provision, where we pay 106% of costs for institutions that qualify as critical access. So Medicare has tried to address those. With regard to physician payments in Medicare, there are some special adjustments for rural areas in the physician payment system as well. There's a 10% bonus payment for health profession shortage areas. There is a floor on I don't want to get too bogged down in the detail, but a floor on the work value in the physician payment system that elevates payments in many rural areas. So we've got
at the most basic level, though, Mr. Hackbarth, I mean, if you look at, truly my area is not very rural anymore. We have some large, places. Fresno is not exactly a rural area anymore.
Right.
And I'm just, overall, what you're suggesting, or what MedPAC is suggesting, is this, basically lower reimbursement rates, which, in my example is we've kind of tried that in my district, and it doesn't appear to be working. So the larger question is, where are we headed with all of this? Yeah.
Well, earlier with Mr. Johnson, we were talking about competitive markets. And in fact, I do believe in competitive markets and want to use them where we can. Competitive markets can be pretty harsh too. In fact, we all see evidence of that every day. Many Americans losing jobs or having their wages reduced or losing their health benefits because of intense competition in competitive markets. You know, what we need to do in Medicare's administered price system is apply the same relentless pressure. It's not always a pretty process. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be happy, but we know both in competitive markets and administered price systems, it's that pressure which causes people to make the hard decisions necessary to improve efficiency.
Well, we'll see if that works. I don't think it's worked too well in my district, but I guess we'll find out. Thank you, Mr. Hackbarth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.